Oh hey, didn't see you there. Welcome to Ragtime Customs. Hey, do you like candy? Sure you do. You let me know that back in April when I did a custom guitar for the AZ Rockabilly Bash. In that video, I showed you how you could rattle can, base coat, metal flake, and candy using Lil Daddy Roth rattle bombs. I then sprayed 2K over them for a clear coat. And once again, I'm using the same products in this video. I have no affiliation with Lil Daddy Roth. I just really like his product, so I'll be using his rattle bombs in this video as well. Now in the previous video, I showed you how to apply all the paint, also dry times and flash times, and pretty much gave you a step-by-step on how to spray this material. So if you haven't seen that video, go ahead and check it out. And when you're done, come back to this one. The rest of us will wait. In that video, you'll remember I said if you change the color of your base coat or your metal flake, it will drastically change the overall outcome of the product. So somebody hit me in the comments and said it would be really cool if you showed us that. So what I've done is taken some of these. These are a plastic protector for picture frames. They have a protective coating on both sides that peels off. So peel the one side, spray the paint, flip it over after it dries, peel the other side, and then I'm left with something like this. This one is silver metal flake. I can then put any color behind it, and we can see what silver flake looks like on different base coats. So for the base coat, the only non-Lil Daddy Roth that I used was black. This is a black base coat. This is just Rust-Oleum black that I had laying around in the garage to use for a black base coat. Then we get to our gold right here. So here's our gold. This is Lil Daddy Roth Warm Beer. And then Surfite Silver for our silver. The gold and the silver are traditionally the most used for a base coat when shooting candies. So like if you're going to do a candy apple red, you would shoot it over silver or shoot it over gold. I'm sure there's a right answer on which one you would use for candy apple red, but both are used for candy apple red. Next, we've got our metal flakes. We've got a gold and a silver, or vice versa. They're too close to my face, and it's too dark in here for me to actually tell which one's which. I'm sure you can see. One's silver and one's gold. One's warm beer, one's surfite. Those are the metal flakes. Then onto our candies. I've got Blue Meanie, which is a blue, hence the name Blue Meanie. And then I've got Tropicali, which you will recognize from that video that you saw back in April or just now, which is an orange candy. So what we're going to do is take those candies with those metal flakes and those base coats, and we're going to mix them all up and check them and stack them on top of each other all different and see what type of combinations we can make and how drastically your base coat or your metal flake will change the overall look of your candy project. So let's get to it.
Here we have all of our panels laid out in the sun. You can see the metallic on the base coat as well as flake and the candy's transparency. I highly recommend this method whether you're new to candy or a veteran painter. These panels can help you visualize your project outcome as well as the paint design in the future. Here we have our three base coats, black, gold, and silver. The darker the base coat, the darker your final product. But a darker base coat may also provide a deeper look as well, which we will start to see when we start stacking. So let's start with the dark comparisons. Here we have our darker bases along with our darkest candy, blue. You can see the metallic of the gold base coming through from underneath the candy, whereas the black obviously just makes it a darker blue. A coat of flake in between these two will fix that later. So now let's do the same thing with our lighter candy, orange. Same with the black, but over our gold you'll see more metallic than you did with the blue because this is a lighter candy. Now we'll move on to our lighter comparisons, using the gold and silver base coats under our orange. This is when it starts to get interesting. Looking at the two closely, you'll see that the silver base provides a lighter outcome as you would expect. But if you look at it from above, the silver base starts to turn slightly darker. So what this means is that while the gold will provide a deeper finish, the silver will change color more as you move your project around in the sun. Now let's do the same thing with our blue. The blue candy reacts as you would expect, but it's a great example of how much lighter or darker your base can change the overall finish. It's also a great example of an easy two-tone. By shooting two different bases, you can create an awesome two-tone relying on only one candy. If you're wanting a little more sparkle in your finish, then you'll want to add flake in between your base coat and your candy coat. Here we will start with a silver flake over our silver and gold base coats. You'll see that the silver flake coats will lighten up both the gold and the silver bases. Once the candy is on top, the silver flake will also be more prominent than a gold flake as it is lighter. So now we'll lay the blue candy on top to see the differences. The flake lightened up our overall finish, but the contrast of silver flake over gold makes the flake itself stand out more. So remember, if your flake is lighter than your base, then the flake will sparkle more on its own. If your flake is the same color, it will look more uniform as an addition to your already metallic base. Now let's switch to gold flake. Because the gold is darker than silver, you will have a contrast of flake over your silver base. This makes the flake stand out, but it won't be as bright as a silver flake. Gold over gold has the same effect as silver over silver, it's just a darker finish. The differences are a lot harder to see with our dark candy, so this will be more prominent when we switch to our orange. Now staying with our gold flake, you'll be able to see the differences much better with our lighter orange candy. Regardless of base color, the gold flake will provide a deeper but less prominent sparkle. The upside to gold over silver is that it will have a different color effect than silver will. A silver flake under orange will make a lighter orange sparkle, whereas the gold may create more of a yellow sparkle. Now let's add our silver sparkle. The silver flake once again lightens up both base coats with a larger contrast on the gold base. The side with the gold base will be slightly darker, but the flake will contrast and be more prominent, while the silver base will give more of an overall metallic look. The contrast of the base and the flake makes the silver over the gold my favorite so far. Now for a much larger contrast, we'll use the silver and the black as our bases. Laying the gold flake down, right away it is much more visible over the black due to the heavy contrast in comparison to a gold over a silver. So if you like the look of gold flake, the color will stand out much more over darker base coats. With the orange candy, it's easy to see the gold flake over the black. On our silver base, the orange will go more towards yellow depending on light, and that's thanks to the color of the flake. Now let's do the same thing again, but this time with our silver flake. The silver flake lightens up our black base, which means you'll lose the contrast of our base to flake. However, the silver flake will be brighter and provide more sparkle. So depending on how you want to make the flake stand out, based on sparkle, you would choose silver, while gold would be a color and a brightness contrast. Now let's take a look at our candy over both flakes with silver and black base coats for a large contrast. The bottom squares have gold flake, the top squares have silver flake, then we have a black base on the right and a silver on the left. Here, especially on the right side, you can see how much of a difference flake can make to your final color. Now how about our silver and gold bases? Once again we have gold flake on the bottom, silver on the top, but now with gold base to the right and silver to the left. Once we drop our orange candy, you'll notice that the differences aren't so drastic. However, the colors are completely different, they are just more subtle. The biggest difference in these will be how they react to the light. So if done correctly, you could create a two-tone that only changes at certain angles. You'll also notice once again that the lower squares go more of a yellow-orange depending on light, while the top squares just sparkle in orange. Once again, that's the difference between a gold flake versus a silver flake. For our blue candy, I only filmed silver and black base, as the difference between the silver and the gold were hard to see on camera. I did still want to show the four colors made mainly for bright to dark. For the last experiment, we will double up on our flake. By putting the gold flake under the silver flake, we create depth. The gold is going to lightly sparkle in the back while changing the overall color. The silver is giving us maximum sparkle up front. Now we'll do the same over the silver base. This does about the same thing, only brighter. But remember, the gold flake does stand out over a silver base. And finally, we'll do the same experiment, this time over black base. This is where you'll notice the largest effect of using both flakes. The black is not only dark in contrast to the flake, but also has no metallic to begin with. Due to its lack of metallic, you typically end up having areas of just black around your flake. The more silver flake you lay, the more your black will start to turn gray. By using the gold as a filler, your black stays dark, you fill in the gaps with flake that won't cause any graying, and you end up with more sparkle. That's a triple win. Now that the experiments are over, I really hope this was helpful in explaining candy and flake. Slam that like button, hit subscribe, then get yourself some picture protectors to start playing with your favorite combinations.
And stack them on top of each other all different.